Okay, so welcome to all the classic car enthusiasts. So I've found something here which I think I can probably recycle and use on the track day mini. It might seem a bit strange initially, but if you bear with me, I'll let you understand where we are. So this is a vac tanker, or a vacuum tank for the brake servo, which was on my 1966 E-Type. I obviously replaced it because I did a complete rebuild, and the car was from 66, and obviously this had been on it originally, and you can see there's a bit of porousness on it here. There was a few dents here and there, there was a dent there and so on, and I was more worried about the porousness and the condition inside. Obviously, even with vacuum or air, you're going to have some, possibly water, so I didn't know what it was like inside, so I didn't want to use it, and I put a brand new one on. But looking at it, and what I'm thinking to myself is, I've just checked it in the car, and what I didn't want to do is have an instrument cluster where it's extremely sharp edged, because obviously if something was to go wrong, worst case scenario, and your legs and arms are flying around, you don't want to be catching it on sharp surfaces. So my thinking is, this obviously is the back of it where it would have fitted to the E-Type inside, but on this side you can see there's a flat piece there on the tank. So my intention is to carry that flat piece on right the way across, and then use that flange, obviously take that air line off, and use that flange to attach it to the car. So it would basically sit that way up. It would set that way up in the dash, and you can see that that's on a slight angle. And what I'll do is I'll use a piece of wood to knock that out. That's the plan. The problem with this is I'm fairly sure that this has been pressed or soldered or brazed together, and the brazing is almost right through. So you can see, the reason I didn't use it, you can see it internally, the rust in there is quite bad. And I think it's been crimped in some way, brazed and crimped, but it might have been done in a machine. So the easiest way is, it's no good to me anyway, but I kept it as a backup. What I'm going to do now is just cut the sides of it off, and we'll look inside, and I can take this flange off afterwards if I need to, but I want to make sure that the idea will work first. So I'll let you have a look at what we're up to. I'll do it in quick time because it'll take too long otherwise. Okay, so you can see I cut through that, although it was in quick time, I cut through that pretty quickly. Some of the cutting went through very easily, which shows me that it is porous and it is thin, so it was absolutely the right decision not to use it. So I'll open it up and we'll see how it is inside. There is actually fluid inside it, I can see it, which will probably be brake fluid, I would imagine. I just need to quickly cut off a couple of little bits that are holding it on. Please don't use the grinder like this. I mean, I'm not professional, but I use a lot of grinders, and we tend to use it this way because it makes it a little bit easier, but it's extremely dangerous and you need to keep the disc away from you. So, here we are. And as you can see inside, actually it's not too bad, because obviously this is brake fluid, as you can see inside, and it's kept it in decent condition. But the walls were extremely thin. I think you can see there's a few places, it actually isn't too bad, but it seemed to go quite through quite easy on some bits and not on others. So what I'll do is I'll clean this out, and we'll try it in the car and see if it's going to do the job that I'm looking for, and then we can think about trying to get this sorted out. So hopefully it all goes to plan. Okay, so bearing in mind that's just the tank cut in half, what do you think looks better, that or the square one? I'll put it up in a second and show you the difference. Obviously what I would then now do is flatten out this piece here. You can see where one gauge would go, and I'll do it right across the other side, and I think that will give me enough to see them all quite clearly. If not, what I could do is actually take a swedge along the back here and then bring it in to taper it more towards me, but I think actually that might even work. It's basically just trying to get this flat piece in would be more difficult. So I'll quickly show you the other one, how it looked. As you can see, it's not in exactly the right place, but that's roughly where it would be. But you could see there would be sharp edges on here and on the bottom. It wouldn't be so bad in the corner because the door would be there. And obviously that is a very easy piece of steel to make, and this is why I came up with the idea with this tank, because it's going to take quite a bit of pressing and a bit of forming and hammer and dollying to get it correct. So I think the other one will look much better once it's painted up and all the gauges are in. So you can see I've cleaned the edges up on that. That's the way it's going to sit, so obviously they're up at a slight angle to me, but it's fairly obvious. This crease I can easily take out with the English wheel, but obviously getting this correct, I would have to make a wood buck inside there and then crush it and get it flat. That can be done, it's not a problem, but the easiest way to do this, because unfortunately there's 4 instruments, well not unfortunately, but due to the fact that there's 4 instruments, you can see that even if I put that in that corner there, by the time I moved along, it'd be quite difficult to get that last one in. So the plan is now is to use this. You've seen it in the car just as it was, basic. What I'll now do is I'll measure this up and I'll cut this piece out. What I'll also do is cut it further back, but down onto this line here, so I get a nice straight line which I can hammer flat, and I'll make a brand new binnacle to go in there for the 4 pot gauges. This is the easiest way to do it. So, you know, there's many ways to skin a cat, as we've said many times, but by the time I actually get rid of this crease, I can't put this unfortunately in my shrinker, the jaw is not deep enough for it, but I could probably get this out with the English wheel, but it would take quite a long time. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to measure this up, cut it out and put a brand new flat piece of steel in it, and then I'll weld it in place. Obviously I'll make the binnacles first, because then I can put them into the drill press and so on. So that's the next plan, and I'll show you when I get this cut out. So you can see roughly how it would look. Obviously that's just a piece of paper as a template in there, but that's approximately how it would look. I think that'll work well. Obviously there's a few gaps here, but that's because it's sitting on a piece of wood, as you can see underneath, and it's bending it in the middle, but once it's up tight and I can weld all the way around, I think that's going to be the way to go. I was a bit overzealous with the cutting here, so I've actually put this piece back in again, and I'll just weld it up, but that's roughly how the gauges will look. I think they should be okay. Maybe the angles might be a little bit different, we'll see. But I'm going to finish up this weld here for tonight, and then I'll put this video up and I'll do a part 2, and I'll show you how to put the copper behind here to use as a heat sink, and it'll stop you blowing through because it's extremely thin, it's very old, but I'll put a little bit on the end before I finish up, but that's roughly how it will look. Okay, so you can see here I've actually cut a bit too much out, so I'm going to have to put it back in. So you can see I've got an old copper buzz bar there. I've just cleaned it up a little bit. The cleaner it is, the better it will stop sparking. And basically what I'm going to do now is just tack it and just roll it around the copper so it stops it blowing through, and that will stop There you go, I'll put this on here. So I've just done the outside of that. I've just completely put that piece back in, and as you can see, it's pretty much, you wouldn't recognise it. Obviously, I've not done the inside. I welded it, tack welded it inside, but I haven't done it inside. But just to show you the difference, so you can see that looks pretty much like it's needs a little bit more work done on it, but that's the basics of it. It's firm, and you can see there inside where hopefully you can see that, where I've put that corner piece back in there. Obviously, I want to make that flush. So that the binnacle sits in nice and straight, but I want to sit in straight, but I also want it at a slight angle so it's facing the driver. So if you look there, it might look a bit of a strange shape, but what it'll do is it'll allow the binnacle to sit at a slight angle to me. So I'm going to do a part 2, which is when I make the piece inside, and then I'll weld it into here, and then. But I make the 4 binnacles first, so we know they're exactly in the right place and I know where to weld. So that will be in part 2. So I hope you're enjoying these. As usual, stay safe, keep the faith, enjoy your hobby, and as I say, I hope you're getting some enjoyment out of them while we're all kind of hunkered down or in lockdown. And I'll try and make as many as I can if you guys want to watch them. Anyway, take care. Bye for now.